Cool. Give another 2, 3 minutes to have as many people in the room as possible before we head out to start. And hear you. Everyone, and I'm delighted that you're uh, joining us. Myself and oh yes, Amodo, I can see and hear you clearly. That's great. That's great. I can hear you. Great. I'm so happy you can. Hello, it's good to be here. Vanessa, hello, it's good to be here. Ayomide, yes, I can hear you. Great one. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. So briefly, I'll do a bit of introduction. You're here today for this meeting, being a global top talent. And the meeting is meant to address how the world of work has really changed and how we really can have to up our games in whatever field we have found ourselves, to be that best employee, be that best person, regardless of where we're working or where our head office is situated or where our business is running and who we are having to deal with, what race they are or what color they might have, because
Recording in progress.
So good one. We would eventually have to deal with some questions that have been set ahead before this meeting by every one of us that registered. Okay, so I'll do a brief introduction of our host, our guest, for today. We have Jessica. Jessica is a workplace trade agent, and she has authored some books, as well as, you can always check up all the books. You would have a good work for it. She's the founder of Workology and the host of Workology podcast. She's been recognized by Forbes as the top 50 social media influencer, and that's amazing. She just authored the book, Digitizing Talent: Creative Strategies for the Digital Recruiting Age. And she's going to be on the call with me, as well as Ben. Ben is a project manager, is a strategic project manager of Global Immigration Matters. He has postgraduate degree in law, and he has more than 10 years experience in corporate immigration, and his recent work focuses on Brexit-related options for UK nationals traveling to the United Union and European Union, and advising clients in the sports and entertainment sector. All right, so these two persons are here with us on this call. We're going to have a roll-up of meetings. We're going to have each of the speakers tell us about what being a global talent is, what are the things that we need to know, what are the characters that would make us an effective top talent regardless of where we're playing, and what are the things that we might need to improve, the skills that we might need to improve at. They're going to have time to tell us these things. At the same time, they're going to have time to tell us, ask us some of your questions. So during the meeting, you can drop your questions in the chat box. We'll pick some very salient ones. And then if there are going to be some polls, so you can also look out for the polls and take them. All right, I would head it on to Jessica now. Jessica, are you there? Are you there with me? Can you hear me?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, I can hear you. I would like if the participants can also mention that they can hear you. Thank you so much for coming to the call, Jessica. And we're glad to have you. And please, over to you. The floor is yours right now. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Joy. I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everyone. In the comments, let me know where's home for you. Where do you live right now? City, country, state, all the things. Let me know in the comments where those are. I want to showcase just the great diversity and global minds that are here with us today, which makes it so exciting. All right, I see Lagos, Nigeria. Amazing. Well, a little bit about me. I live in Austin, Texas, but this week I am working remotely from Montego Bay, Jamaica. So this truly is a global time that we're living in, whether our employees are traveling remotely like I am this week and working virtually, or we are hiring people from different countries and different places maybe than ever before. I think especially in the United States where I live, employers are just really opening up to this idea. Unless they had a physical office in that country, they hadn't necessarily thought about hiring or recruiting from those countries. I had a number of friends who have relocated for periods of time. I have a friend that spent the summer in Portugal, another one in Italy, and they're working. Many of them are corporate employees who are working remotely while traveling the world. So employers are thinking about these things. And I think this is really important for us to think about as HR and talent acquisition leaders, what we can bring to the table. First things first, we have a lot of people from all over the place. Lots of Nigeria. I have Bolingbrook, Illinois, Down Under, Michigan, the United States. Amazing. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us as global leaders who are living or working in other places to help train and educate and help managers and leaders understand. Because for the longest time, our managers and leaders have been working in office, or they maybe have only had employees in a certain country from a certain culture in a certain way. They don't know any better. So we have an opportunity as HR and TA leaders, I think, to really help be a point of contact, a source of information to help provide those managers and leaders with insights and information. I'll give you an example. I have a number of employees who live in Kenya, and there was a big election at the end of last week. And so we weren't really certain what the certainty was going to be in terms of things like internet or access to technology or potential unrest that would have been happening in the country. So far, so good, but I don't know these things because I don't necessarily always have a pulse on Kenya and the political happenings. So my team kind of keeps me informed, but we have a good relationship, and I've asked for that information and insights. I think one easy way for you is to talk to your manager or leader if you are working for a global company who maybe doesn't have a large population of employees in a certain country, to let them know, hey, here's some holidays, here's some things happening. If you are looking for skill building for yourself, I like to use what I call the HR decision framework. And this I normally use in the context of building new strategies and plans for human resources or TA. However, it can absolutely work for you as an individual who's thinking about how you can better support the organization and build new skills for yourself. Again, one of the easiest ways I think for you is to put yourself in the shoes of that organization or that hiring manager and think about how are the ways that I'm able to maybe help support them. You are an expert in your culture, in your country, in your area, and maybe offering a service to your employer or future employers or consulting opportunities to be an expert as an HR TA leader in that country. Your expertise, I am not an expert in Nigeria. I have never lived in Nigeria. I have yet to visit, although I would love to come and see y'all. And I would try to find someone like Joy, someone like you, maybe if you're living in Nigeria, and ask you questions about the economy, jobs, salary, information, expectations for when they come to work, how they like to work. So let me introduce to you real quickly the HR and TA decision framework. So there's 4 different parts to the HR and TA decision framework. And I want to think about this in a global context for you and how you can help provide support and upskill your game. Okay. First part of the HR decision framework is assess. And that's what we're doing here. We're talking about the global context. I want you to look at maybe jobs or openings or companies that you would like to work at, assess those. Do a skills inventory for yourself to kind of think through where maybe some gaps or opportunities lie. Potentially call on some employers or some friends in HR in other countries or other areas that you think might be hiring, or maybe they have job openings listed, and say, hey, what are your biggest challenges right now recruiting in X or in this place? And this is just going to give you some basic information as you start to think about, where can I add value? I do this all the time when I'm consulting with HR and TA teams when we're thinking about ways to help improve the recruitment process. You can do the same thing with your own career. So step 1 of the TA and the HR decision framework is assess. The thing I'll also say about assessment is looking at data, pulling information. So not just salary information, but if you have access to research from academics, maybe something that Ben has published recently, something from analysts and experts in the TA space or in the country. I think that's important for you to gather as you're kind of thinking about trends and what futurists and forecasters think is going to happen. I know, at least in the US anyways, it's a little uncertain right now. Are we heading to recession? Is this just a small correction? What is happening? So employers are looking for opportunities to save money, improve processes, and perhaps that is, by doing so, hiring more people in a certain country or a certain location or geographic or cultural area. And that could be where your secret superpower lies. Step 2 of this framework next is focus. I want you, let's spend some time assessing, let's spend some time researching, let's spend some time talking. But I really want you to focus on 1 or 2 things. Maybe you're like me. I'm a creative. I have a million ideas. So I'm here in Jamaica, and I wish I could show you right now. But I brought Post-it notes and giant Post-it notes for my windows and my walls. And my entire living room, dining room area here is covered. I probably have 100 Post-it notes on my wall, just with ideas and some organization and some strategies that I'm trying to work out for my own business. But I know at the end of the day, when I leave here tomorrow, I have to pick a couple focuses for me in order to survive, in order to thrive. And I want you to do the same thing. After you have assessed, take a look, take stock, and think about what are the things that I can bring to an employer, or a skill that I can obtain or have access to relatively easily without a lot of effort, that I think can bring the most value to an employer. Okay. Pick 2 or 3, no more than that. So these 100 Post-it notes, I've got to whittle it down before I leave tomorrow afternoon to just 3 little Post-it notes of all my ideas. It's hard, but it's going to help you stay focused and unified and organized in conversations with networking and how you're spending your time and how you're doing your personal development and communicating to prospective employers or organizations that you want to work with as a consultant or a contractor. You're really unified in how you add value. Step 3 is align. And I think that we really have to think about the message that resonates with the employer the most. So if your secret superpower is helping employers or managers understand how to work better with remote employees, which I think is a huge need that employers really haven't even thought about, all of them just yet, because it is hard to lead teams remotely. You can't just swing by somebody's cubicle. We have time zones, we have cultural differences, we have schedule differences, we just have changes in life. I'll give you an example. In different countries, I have learned that how we plan and mourn the dead is very different. In America, we get maybe 3 days of paid time off. And that's not the same in other countries. So sometimes managers need training, support, and information to help be better leaders. And I think that's a lot of what's happening now. One thing that we have been doing that has been working really well, because I have a team that works all over the globe, is that we have instituted just little hashtags in messages. So we work primarily in Slack, although I have meetings with team members, some individually, some once a week, depending upon their level. But we have a Slack plan where if you have a question directed to someone, use the hashtag in that DM, which is urgent or not urgent. Simple as that. I know if I get a message that says urgent, I really need to respond within the next 4 to 6 hours. Not urgent, I have 24 hours, or we can talk a little bit more about it. It helps me as someone who has attention deficit disorder and who is also a leader balancing a million things to sort of sort through the mess to determine, is this something that's really important, or is this something that can wait? And I think that's incredibly important for employees who are working in different places and on different schedules. My team works predominantly asynchronously, so they really need to understand, do I need to pull off from something and focus on this, or can I finish up this project or this task that I was working on until I have a break period? These are all things that I think we absolutely need. But I want you to think about your alignment in terms of how you can bring your global expertise. Yes, I believe you have a global expertise as a TA leader, as an HR leader to the table. If you don't feel like you can align this expertise, now's the time for you to think about, where can I go out and find this information? We're doing some of that here, right? There are so many great classes online that are on demand with experts. Udemy, there's books available. I have my book coming out soon, published by SHRM, on digital recruiting. Find information. You have access to so many cool things. Once you have determined your focus, go seek out information, courses, classes to become a subject matter expert. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money in order to do it. And then you can really differentiate yourself as a TA and HR leader who can really bring value. Okay, so we're moving in to step 4, and that's expand. So once you have figured out that this is something that this organization needs, maybe it's, training managers remotely, or helping people understand cultural norms in certain countries, or what the recruiting processes are like in certain places that you as an HRTA leader can learn and understand about. You want to expand your efforts. Don't stop with just one thing. As we continue hiring more globally, which I absolutely think that we will, this is not going away. More companies in the US and globally are using services outside of immigration services. They're tapping into employer of record services. Companies like Oyster HR, there's so many others that have technologies to help process payroll and allow employers to easily bring somebody into the organization from another country and have them work. I think that you want to think about how you can continue to expand this. So maybe the next move is thinking about becoming not just maybe an expert in Nigeria hiring, but maybe focusing your efforts in neighboring countries as well. And then reach out to employers who you see are expanding, because this change is of mass proportion. I think employers right now, especially with the recession, are really looking to streamline things, and this could be a real opportunity for us as human resources and talent acquisition leaders. Just because hiring might be slowing, maybe it's not happening at the speed that we have seen really coming out of the pandemic, doesn't mean that you can't do that for yourself. So when we're thinking about employment as a talent leader, as a worker in business and in your place of work, it's important to use this decision framework. You don't need to be in HR to be able to make this happen. I want you to assess your career. Where are you at? What skills do you have? And then pick a focus on what those are. Next, you're going to align with an organization. Pick a group of organizations or a type of industry that you would like to focus on. Reach out to those organizations and talk to them about the values that you're going to be able to bring. And then number 4 is expanding those skills. If you get employed or hired by this company, it doesn't mean that the learning stops. It just grows and expands. As the industry changes, so must you. As the economy changes, so must you. What we knew about the world of work 2.5 years ago is completely different. So it's important for you to never stop. One of the things I will say that I think is really important is to align yourself with an organization that wants you to learn and grow. This is something that's really important for me and my global team, is I want them, when they leave my organization, to walk away with new skills and new experiences that they didn't have before. So find, number 1, if you can, an organization that supports these things. Otherwise, number 2, do it yourself. Do the research, seek it out. There's so many amazing resources. I'll give you an example. Recently, we needed some help with HTML. I do a lot of email marketing, and I am not an HTML guru, and I need somebody on my team that can be able to code and write HTML very well. And some people were familiar, but they really weren't very deep into it. So I purchased a course on Udemy for anyone and everyone who wanted to take it. It was $15 American dollars. If you have access to these kind of tools online with friends, communities, you can get access to those kinds of tools and resources to help you grow. The key is the assessment part, and then focusing on 2 or 3 things for you to really grow as an individual, and then communicate that to your boss and your leadership or your next job about where you're really adding value. I feel like our 15 minutes went by really, really fast. I know we have a lot of great conversations still left to be had. I'll be sticking around. I'm going to hand it back over to Joy. let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I appreciate you.
It was really a fantastic session. Really, the 15 minutes went by very fast, too fast, in fact. But you dropped out a lot of very valid points, and that's what I hope that everyone has picked out about how it's important that you find what you really want to do, your skills, the 1, 2, or 3 skills that you're very good at, and improve on them, make them globally relevant, and that would help you to stay in that kind of market. At the same time, you must align yourself to what global recruiters, businesses, companies are looking for. Get these informations, look out for these informations. They are all over. You can find information wherever. We're in a very global age. You have the internet. You can always sort out for good information. If you have people, recruiters that are outside the globe, you can ask them as well. You need to know this and align yourself with it. Make sure you are in a company that is inspiring you to grow, to learn, to be better. And if you peradventure or not, do it personally. These are very important things that you have mentioned. So I'm going to go next to Ben. And you mentioned something that, I wouldn't like to pass. And that's the fact that employers are looking to reduce their costs all over the world. And that's why cross-border recruiting, it has come to stay. And as an HR practitioner like myself, I know that this is becoming more and more of the trend. So it makes it that you could actually be a good talent, even if you could be a very, very viable candidate for a position in an organization that exists in a place that you have never stepped in, or a border that you have never crossed. Because as long as you have the skill, the competence, and you're willing to keep improving and align with the business needs, then you're right there. Okay, so I'm going on to Ben now for the next call. And Ben, I believe you're there and you're ready to take it.
Hi, everyone.
So we've had, yes, hi Ben, over to you.
Thanks so much, Joy. Thank you. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to be invited to speak today. And thank you also for inviting me, but also for Jessica's contribution there, which is a really fascinating insight and perhaps a good balance with some of the things I'm about to discuss. Jessica's very much on the creative side and working on that side of things. My role is not to be the bearer of kind of gloomy news, but I work on the compliance side. So if and when any of you are planning to relocate to work, then there are lots of considerations from a legal perspective in terms of securing your visa, not just that, of course, the tax considerations and relocating your furniture. But my expertise specifically is in helping clients, employers and individuals obtain the relevant visa and work permit to go and work in another country. So perhaps while we're on that topic, it'd be really interesting to engage with you a little bit, and maybe we could find out in the chat if you could you've told us where you are now, but if you could maybe just pop down in the chat if you could relocate, or if you're an employer relocating people to another country, or if you individually want to relocate somewhere, where is it that you have in mind? Where's your dream destination if you'd like to move from Lagos to another country, or from the US somewhere else? Please let me know where you're thinking of relocating to, just so I have a bit of an idea. And it's helpful to know, and maybe I can answer some questions that you have. So if you have any questions, obviously pop those in the chat. But it's quite varied here. We have a few people wanting to go to Canada, Los Angeles, the UK. So already that's fantastic, because a lot of the people on the call here are in Nigeria or the US, but you're looking to want to diversify. So that's really great news. And before I begin, I just want to say, kind of on a personal level, it's really fantastic to see so many people from Africa on this call today. Myself personally, I'm in the UK at the moment, but my parents and my family are from Mauritius, which is obviously part of Africa. So I have a huge kind of allegiance and alliance to growing the economy and developing talent from Africa that goes to other countries. You know, people like my parents relocated from Mauritius to the UK, and also bringing that talent and that skill back. And you moving to these potential countries isn't just going to help your careers, it's actually going to help the economy of the countries that you're in Nigeria or other African countries, as well as obviously, you know, the US and other people watching in. So that's fantastic. So look, I think the most important thing to mention straight away is if you are wanting to relocate to another country, whether it's for work or personal reasons, the only way that would be possible from a legal standpoint is that you will need to secure a work permit or some kind of sponsorship from an employer, from a corporate side, which obviously we're mainly talking about here. And so compliance is very important. You can't just actually relocate from one country to another. You do need to obtain a work permit or a visa. Now, I'm sure many of you know that. What I think is really important to mention is that wherever you're planning to go, whether it's Canada, whether you're looking at East Africa or the UK or the United States, no one country has the same rules. So actually every country has a different set of immigration rules, and you would need to obtain permission for that, you know, to go and live and work in that country. And that process is not a straightforward one, if I'm being honest with you. There are lots of factors, but I think the most important one to mention to all of you is that if you are going to live or planning to live and work in another country, the real kind of priority is that you will need to seek or gain sponsorship. So your employer would need to have an office in that country, or you would need to be hired by a company that has an office in the country where you plan to live. So you need to seek that. You need to apply for that role from the country that you're in now, and then they would need to be able to offer that sponsorship to you. And that's quite a complicated process. They would need to be able to provide documents, potentially if your company where you are now, whichever country that is, they would also need to endorse that, provide documents. And in addition, the individual, which is all of you, would also need to really provide quite lengthy and comprehensive documents in terms of your CV, your university degree, sometimes more detailed than that. Some countries ask for police clearance documents, police records, to show there are no criminal convictions, or medical records as well. And sometimes those need to be translated or legalized to use in another country. So the work permit process is a complicated one. And in all honesty, I'm sometimes asked, well, how long will it take me to obtain a work permit to go to Italy or the United States or the UK? The answer to that question really differs, not just by country, but also by visa route, because each country will have more than just one work permit route for you to come in. So it's impossible for me to give you a specific answer. One really important thing that I need to point out to you is that it really depends on the country that you're planning to go to, and it depends on the individual. It depends on what salary you're obtaining. Often the higher the salary, the more straightforward the work permit route would be. And it really depends on that individual as well. So there's loads of different factors where I can't really give a specific answer. But generally speaking, to be able to work in another country, you are looking at a process that would take several weeks, potentially even several months, depending on really where you're looking to go. So that's kind of immigration historically, or kind of the long-term view. The other thing I would mention here is what you're actually going to be doing. Because if you're going to be working in another country and moving permanently or long-term to another country where you will work, then you would need a work permit, which can, as I said, can take quite a long time to process. If, however, you are going to another country just for meetings or to attend a conference, that is different, and that is something that you could do or facilitate more efficiently in a more streamlined way, because you may only require a business visa to be able to travel to those countries. So really what you're doing in that country and how long you're going for, but mainly what the activity that you're going to be doing in that country is relevant in terms of immigration compliance. What I would say is that as the world is changing, technology is changing and moving very quickly, and particularly in this post-COVID world, I just want to highlight one real key trend here that I think would be quite useful and interesting for you to maybe research or look into a bit further. And that is the rise and the prominence of the digital nomad visa or remote work options. Jessica herself said that she's in Jamaica working remotely. Now, what that is that more and more countries, including some from Africa, which is fantastic, are introducing a visa route where you can actually go and live and work in another country. And you can do that remotely. It's called the digital nomad. So you don't necessarily have to be tied down to work in the country you live. You can go and live, for example, countries like Thailand or countries in the Caribbean offer this. The country where my family are from, as I mentioned, Mauritius, also have this digital nomad visa where you can actually, in a quite straightforward way, depending on eligibility, apply for this remote work or digital nomad visa. So in terms of what will make a person identified as a top talent when working remotely, that's often can depend on the salary that they're on. So a high earner is more likely to be eligible. Countries like the UAE have, for example, if you're in, I believe, in $5,000 a month, then you can potentially qualify for a digital nomad visa. The salary is important, and there are various different eligibility criteria. So generally speaking, the higher the salary, the more senior the role, the more straightforward it is for you to be able to work, obtain a work permit, but also be able to apply for a digital nomad visa. Now, this is a trend that's likely to increase. So we've already seen a number of countries introduce digital nomad visas, like I say, the UAE, a number of countries in the Caribbean, Mauritius, Spain, I believe Italy, Malta as well. So there's lots of different countries that are implementing this. Greece is another one. So it really depends. And what I would suggest is to consult with an immigration specialist if and when you have identified that country that you're looking to potentially work remotely for or obtain a work permit. So that's absolutely critical. And I think there are lots of different trends that are rising, but I do think that that is going to be more and more prominent, with potentially employers allowing their employees to go and work remotely for a certain period of time. And so that's one opportunity. But I do want to bring this back to kind of the individual and the bigger picture, because obviously you're all looking to be a global talent, but actually let's look more deeply at why you should be doing that and what the benefits are. Obviously, this will help you grow your career. It will help you develop your skills. But what it will do, it's doing more than that, especially for this huge number of people that are watching from Nigeria and other African countries. You can potentially go and transfer to Canada or the United States or the UK, and then you can build up your talent, and potentially, if and when you choose to return, you can then bring back and develop the talent in those countries as well. So you're really achieving something quite important, quite significant here. You're potentially growing the economy and doing something good for your countries of heritage as well. So it's fantastic on two sides, on a personal side, but also a big picture side as well in terms of supporting the economy. So I just want to address one of the questions here, because I think it's really important, as if any of you do have these. So I just want to look at what Ayubami said in terms of individual. Was we looked specifically at the lack of diversity in the industry and in the world generally, in the economy, and the fact that Europe particularly and North America are where there is significant economic growth. In terms of immigration, for example, people often wanting to relocate to the United States and UK, and that the world of business is so focused on those regions. And me being, I suppose, originally from Africa or Mauritian heritage, that kind of, to a certain extent, I don't think that sits very well with me, because I think there should be equality globally, and I think people in Africa should have that opportunity. So the answer to your question is I think extremely beneficial. I think it's now very straightforward to build your profile on LinkedIn, to speak and perform and present on YouTube, for example, or LinkedIn, and have these platforms and to write blogs. But what I would say is to build your social media presence, and you can do that. It depends obviously on what you do professionally, but it could be on Instagram, it could be on LinkedIn, it could be YouTube. But you can very quickly build quite a high profile by utilizing social media in quite an extensive way. It's not that you have to travel to the UK or travel to the US or be employed in those countries. As you say, you might want to stay in Africa and build your profile there. What I would like to see more is more money and more business coming into Africa, rather than this huge kind of outflux of African nationals going into those other regions, which of course is important. But I think we need to think about Africa and building in the region as well. So I think that's a really important one. Now, I just want to address a few more questions that are coming in. So we've been asked, what are the exclusive characteristics of a global talent? How does one deal with limited factors of racism? And what should stand you out on the journey to being a global talent? Those are really interesting questions. So thank you for sending them through. I'll address them one by one, and I am conscious that we only have a few minutes left, but I'll try and respond to those as they come in. So in terms of exclusive characteristics of a global talent, I think the most important advice that I would give each of you watching this call is to be yourself and develop your own identity, because I don't think it should be me telling anyone watching this call how you should be to be a global talent. I can give you pointers. I think, for example, it's very important to have strong social skills. I think it's very important to be an important communicator. And I think cultural awareness is really critical as well, because I think to be aware of certain cultures, the North American and European culture is very different to the African culture, as is it different to the Asian culture or Middle Eastern. And to be able to work with people from different cultures and backgrounds is very important. I myself have a very mixed background, and I'm aware of those. And in my role, we do have to work with people from different cultures. So I think that is important. But I think the most important piece of advice that I can give to anyone on this call in terms of what the characteristics of a global talent would be is, and this in a way answers the third question in terms of what should stand you out on the journey to being a global talent, is to have your own identity, to be yourself. Because if you try and imitate someone else or try and replicate someone else, you're not going to feel like you're being yourself. And I think we can only be the best versions of ourselves professionally when we truly know who we are and what we stand for. I think, again, addressing the question on racism and how does one deal with the limited factor of racism, well, I think the important part on that side is that we're not able to change anyone's perspectives if we do encounter racism. And I don't think, it's a very difficult question to answer, because I'm not here to advise every single person in how to deal with racism in its different forms. That would be very patronizing and not fair to any of you that have been had to deal with that very traumatic and problematic situation. What I would say is, if we know who we are, then we can understand that issue of racism is a problem from the person that it's coming from, not ourselves. And I think, again, really, I think the main sort of takeaway I would give you here is to really establish a clear identity and set of values. If we are confronting racism, is that something that we would like to talk more about? In addition, should we be collaborating with others? So, for example, diversity, equality, and inclusion groups to fight against that. That is part of our brand. What is our own personal and professional brand? And to create that and to stand by it so that it's run through every thread of what we do professionally. So I think that's important. And also collaboration, working with people, not just in our companies, but in different countries, and building our network. And we can do that also on LinkedIn. So I think that's really important as well. I think that's really important. But I think really I should probably kind of wrap up in the next minute or two. In terms of building a global resume, I think really it's about building your network and join, things that you wouldn't normally join, in building your network on LinkedIn. And there's lots of different ways to do that. But I would say step outside of your comfort zone and find connections that you wouldn't normally connect with or network with in your general sphere of work. So I think that's very important as well. I think I'm going to stop there. I know there are more questions, so Joy may have them, but I have probably. Oh no, it's okay. We have a bit more time, which is great. So technology is fast evolving, and it's important that one catches up in the fastest way possible. What can I do when I find myself in an environment where there's no room to polish my technology career, and I do not have access to the tools and information needed to be that global talent? I think that's a very tough question. What I would say is, in my opinion, and that perhaps I'm a bit of a maverick. I know technology is very important, but I'm of the opinion that technology really is just a tool. Now, technology is fantastic. Everyone loves to talk about having the best tech, and I think that's true. I think technology, but it's absolutely an add-on. The biggest and best thing about an individual selling something is from the person. Jessica, fantastic. She's probably the best person to talk about this, but it's really about an individual sell something. You can have fantastic technology, but behind that technology, there needs to be a story, there needs to be a person, there needs to be a narrative. So as good as technology can be, I really still do think it comes from the individual. But I do think what I might do is pass it on to Jessica. I'm sure she has some comments on that question as well. And obviously happy to answer some more questions, but I'll pass it back to Jessica in case she has anything to add on the technology question.
Hello, Jessica, can you? Okay, yes.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Can y'all hear me?
All right. Okay.
Okay, so I am refreshing the question here. What do I need to do to polish up and become more proficient with technology? I would, if I'm thinking about, like, when I'm hiring global talent, I have a list of skills that I'm looking for. Maybe like for my company, like maybe I need someone who has marketing experience or Canva, they can do graphic design. And there are so many great tools or resources out there that you as an individual, you can go and take a look at job postings or talk to a type of company, maybe the head of HR at an organization or somebody like me, and say, like, hey, I want to work for you. What kinds of skills do I need to be able to do that? And I would say, like, for me, a lot of my work is marketing related. So like I said, I want somebody who can do HTML, Canva, or graphic design would be nice. Somebody who's familiar with WordPress. And the nice thing about the internet is there's so many free or low cost resources that you can grab. There's so much good stuff on YouTube. I find out how to do everything on YouTube. Repair my dishwasher, fix my ice maker. That's where I go. And I would encourage you, as part of the framework, to take a look at what are the skills that you need to be able to step into that role, maybe talk to some people about it, and then make a plan and go out and find those things. A lot of it is technology related. Like, I need people who know how to do these 5 things. But then maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe I need somebody to research and analyze all my data. So they need to be proficient in maybe some big data basics or some data actualization, different technologies. I think really the sky's the limit. You just have to be able to find the community and the tools to be able and access those. But there are so many low cost, no cost ways to get training. And you can also volunteer your time to get some of those skills, like find a nonprofit. I volunteer at a nonprofit for Siamese cats. And you can put your skills to the test at almost any place. They need HR professionals or graphic designers or whatever at a lot of these organizations as a volunteer.
Okay, Jessica, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time, and the hours flew. I mean, we're just about 80 minutes away from the end of this meeting. And in the nutshell, you both have been able to address what it takes to be a global talent from the global HR practitioner point of view, and a global business and immigration specialist point of view. And I believe a lot of people have learned so many things. Myself, I have learned. But in summary, I must say that to be a global top talent, you just have to know yourself. Like Ben emphasized, you have to find your own archetype. Know yourself, know your self brand, what you're good at, your skills, improve it, make it globally relevant. Jessica made mention that we're in a space where employers are hoping to get the best talent without breaking their purses, as much. So that makes it a very beautiful place to be, where whatever skill you have can be impactful in any business at any place in the world. And so that makes that just opens the bucket for herself. This digitized workspace has come to stay. Really, it has really come to stay. And cross-border management. Yeah, you mentioned cross-border management. If you're into people management or another level of management, maybe you're doing project management, you must know how to manage people across different borders. You mentioned hashtag. I think I remember that. Hashtag urgent, important, so that people can know how to prioritize what they need to do. When you're up working, somebody could be sleeping at that same time, So if you're working globally, you don't need to spend all night working every day because your other colleagues in the US are working now and you therefore must not sleep. If you have a good manager, you will still be able to produce your work regardless of your time zone. Okay, so it's been a wonderful time, and I already have comments from people saying, thank you, Jessica, thank you, Ben. It's been a great time. Thank you so much for coming, and we really had a very swell time. I just give each person about 1 or 2 minutes to give your closing speech or one thing you would like to add. Maybe when you were talking, it skipped your mind, to put it off, to tie it all together before we close out this call. I'll start with Ben. Ben, so just a closeout summary, something maybe you'd like to point out that you didn't remember during your course of speaking on the whole. Yeah, thank you.
I would probably just leave everyone with the thought that absolutely we're living in a more global world, and migration is becoming more and more of a hot topic, in terms of politically, in terms of governments having an anti-immigration stance as well, but also a pro-immigration stance. There are lots of opportunities more for countries from the refugee side. But I would again remind anyone watching this, remember to be compliant. Remember that if you are going to be working or living in another country, you do need to obtain a work permit and or a visa to be able to do so.
Fine. All right, thank you so much, Ben. Compliance, very important. Yes, Jessica.
Oh, compliance is important. I will say as well. I would just say that I would encourage you to think about your skills and how you can leverage your experience as an expert in the country that you're in, and then being a remote or virtual worker. I started out the conversation saying so many employers are looking to do that. And I think it's a great way to build your skill set, get access and learn about the company. The other thing I will say is that reach out to people who are in jobs or roles that are ones that you would like to have, and build a relationship with them. With the internet, I'm able to connect to so many amazing people, and there are Twitter chats, there's Clubhouse rooms, there's podcasts, there's LinkedIn, there's so many great resources. You just need to pick a couple people to start to build a conversation with, and then you can really learn from and grow your network. You don't have to be in the country, like Canada. I saw some notes to be able to to get a job working for a country or working for a company in that country. So it's really up to you how you make your career and then the skills that you build for yourself.
Yes. So I have Bisola Fabusi mentioned it a lot here. Know yourself, develop your identity, step out of your comfort zone, and meet others. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Ben. I'd like to see what you've learned. Please drop it on the chat box, what you've learned from here. I see closing remark, you mentioned that, communicate and collaborate. The world is really a lot smaller now. So you can make maximum use of your social media, podcast, Twitter, and so many other rooms, not just for pushing out on irrelevant information, but deliberately towards networking in line with the global brand you want to have. And while you're building your skill set, build it to be globally relevant. So not just relevant for your current domain or for your current country or the company you're working at as of now, but make sure that you're polishing your skills such that any employer at any country can find it valuable enough to bring you on their team. So it's been a great one. As people drop it, Damilola says, thank you for the insightful time, Jessica and Ben. Thank you, Joy, for putting this together. Jessica has given us a bullet point of a presentation. She said, be yourself, network on LinkedIn, know your social media skills, be a good communicator, market your skills globally relevant, check out job postings and requirements for the skills you want to offer. And that's very important. When you're checking out job posting, sometimes you don't qualify. It's not just because you want to apply. In fact, I tell people sometimes you should just go out to look for job postings of the jobs, roles you want to be in, so that you can know the skills you need to develop. You can know the marketable requirements. So right now, you want to be this person, you want to apply for a job, and you look for the qualifications, and you do not meet up. Do you just discard it? No, copy it out. Look at it. Do you have the things you need to develop? Do you have the necessary educations you need to get? And then in a short time, you would be viable to apply for that same role. So this has been a very amazing one. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jessica. We'll be taking out this in a while now. And we will share the link to this video. This video was recorded. It will be on our YouTube for some people who were not able to. I see some people were going in and out. I don't know if it was their internet or something. You can have it. Check it out on YouTube later on. So thank you so much. It's 5 o'clock. The hour ran by. Thank you. It was a great session. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Bye.